Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second episode of Bridge of Theories. We are here to discuss a theory that many Star Wars fans, and even cursory Star Wars fans, have, I'm sure, mulled over, and that is there is a prophecy. Did you know there's a prophecy in Star Wars, Jeremy?
What? No. Prophecy?
You know, there's like a prophecy about a chosen one or something.
I don't know about that one.
It's like a minor part of Star Wars.
Yeah, very, very minor.
Yeah, they just, like it's like one scene and you're like, oh, that's cool. Just kidding.
Literally, it's like the overarching story of Star Wars.
Kind of the whole point. The whole reason there is a story, like a Star Wars original 6 movies, is because there was a prophecy of the chosen one. And they were looking for this chosen one. The Jedi were. But should they have been? Good question, me. Well, Jeremiah's got that theory pulled up.
The prophecy written in the Master and Apprentice book.
That is the book about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan? Okay, that came out recently.
Now, there's a part of it. I've read another part, but I don't know if that part's canon or not. So I'll read this part.
In the same book?
Yes. I don't know if they're in the same book. I'm having a hard time finding this next. But the one that I know for a fact is in the book, as I'm reading an article, is a chosen one shall come, born of no father, and through him will ultimate balance in the Force be restored. Ah,
seems pretty easy.
But the other one, I'll go into real quick if I can find it.
Who made that prophecy? Does it say even who made that prophecy?
It doesn't.
It's like, what if it was
old Jedi? A lot of Jedi apparently don't really hold to those. Like they actually see those prophecies as not good. Like,
really?
I think Yoda was one of them who was just like, we can't. Basically, because Qui-Gon and Dooku both so invested in the prophecies.
Because they were of the thought process of the living Force and that following kind of the Force's will instead of the Jedi codes so strictly.
But, so this is another one. I don't know if this one's canon, so take it for what you will. And it just seems interesting.
Huh.
But this one is a little bit more. It says, only through sacrifice of many Jedi will the Order cleanse the sin done to the nameless. The danger of the past is not past, but sleeps in an egg. When the egg cracks, it will threaten the galaxy entire. When the Force itself sickens, past and future must split and combine. A chosen one shall come, born of no father, and through him will ultimate balance in the Force be restored.
When the Force sickens.
But really, so here's a good question I have for you, though.
What?
The biggest overarching theme of the prophecy of the Chosen One is bringing balance to the Force. Yeah. That is like an overarching theme in Star Wars throughout the whole entire movies is this Chosen One will bring balance back to the Force. But what is considered balance in universe? Mm-hmm. Because you would think balance would be just not even just peace. Just looking as an outsider, you would think that balance would be the same number of light versus the same number of dark to an extent. If you kind of go just back to bare bones.
I think that's what a lot of people have come away with from viewing
Episode
3 and understanding, Anakin was the chosen one, and George Lucas has been very clear about that he was the chosen one. Even it wasn't Luke, and he fulfilled that at the end of Return of the Jedi that Anakin did. So I think coming away from that, that's the way a lot of people view it, is he brought balance because he basically stripped down the Jedi all the way down to almost nothing, and the Sith, destroyed the accumulation of Sith power in Palpatine, and then himself died. So in that regard, he brought balance, if that's what balance means.
Yeah, I guess
I think the way I always interpreted like Qui-Gon and how he viewed it was he'll bring peace. He'll bring peace between light and dark.
Well, which is why I know a lot of people don't see anything after Episode 6 as true canon, because technically after Episode 6 in like the books that people like the expanded universe, there isn't peace, that more Sith come and all that. So people don't see that because people obviously Anakin was the chosen one. So a lot of people headcanon wise are like, well, no, after episode 6, that was the end. That was the end of Star Wars. They're like, oh, I'll read the books. They're cool. But like, as far as canon goes, like it's not canon.
Well, I guess if there'd have to be, for there to be a balance in the Force needed, you'd have to go back to how long ago was the prophecy made? You know, it's like, because then if there's not balance in the Force, when is there an imbalance? And what is the imbalance? You know,
that's the big
is the imbalance too many Jedi? Is the imbalance?
Well, that's the thing I'm always curious about is like what exactly is balance in the Force? What is the Force in its, as far as the Force goes? What is the Force? Because you have like the light side, the dark side, but like what is the Force? Is the Force light side, or is the Force the dark side and the light side's perverted it, or is it a mixture of both, or is it not neither at all? Yeah. So like, because I know there are some people theorize that like really. I know the Jedi would think this too, is that what balance is pure light of the Force, and the dark side is no longer a thing. The dark side is eradicated because the dark side is perversion of the Force. But the Sith don't necessarily think that. The Sith see the Force but they also don't see the Force as the same way. The Sith see the Force as like the Force as a tool to be used to gain freedom. Mm-hmm. So then are you talking about simply bringing balance, like literally bringing balance to the Force? Are you talking about bringing peace to the world through the Force? What exactly is that prophecy mean? I mean, we can all pretty much agree that Anakin's the chosen one,
right?
But what exactly is he bringing balance to? I think the Clone Wars kind of went into that with the episode of Mortis, when they went to Mortis. And I don't know if you ever watched that mini arc
in Clone Wars. No, but you told me about it.
But it goes into like they actually go to what's called Mortis, and Anakin is literally asked by, there's like a father who is basically like supposed to be the one that's keeping balance, and then you have the daughter who is supposed to be basically the embodiment of light, and the son isn't the embodiment of dark. But the thing is like they're like that doesn't mean that this daughter's Jedi and he's Sith. She's just the embodiment of the light side of the Force. He's the embodiment of the dark. And if you kind of look at it that way, it's just like they're basically, the Force is both light and dark. Mm-hmm. But he ends up, the son is being perverted by the Sith and by power, like the Sith usually are. Yeah. And then the father ends up trying to get Anakin to stay on Mortis to bring. He says, "You are the chosen one. This is how you bring balance to the Force. You must control both the son and the daughter." I don't know.
Well, so like going back to the prophecy, it does say, like, the one that Yoda references and is a part of what's called the Great Holocron. It says a Jedi will come to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. Obviously, he did more than just destroy the Sith. He destroyed the Jedi too.
He destroyed everybody.
But he still destroyed the Sith, so he still fulfilled the prophecy.
Well, here's the thing. Was he a Jedi at the time?
Yeah, I think so.
But was he?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think
technically if you go off of him, because he becomes a Force ghost and only Jedi become Force ghosts.
Yeah, I think, or light side. Like, I think he...
Well, light side.
Because obviously a Jedi is like a sect of light side users, and same with the Sith, dark side. But yeah, I think that from the... probably throughout Return of the Jedi, he was probably subconsciously pulling back towards the light to get to that moment where... he makes that what seems like a split-second decision to save his son. I think in that moment he absolutely had come back to the light. It wasn't a Sith way of doing that. Would be
for more power.
The exact thing he was talking about in the end of episode 3 when he's talking to Padme, and he's like, I can overthrow the Emperor. We can rule that would not have been fulfilling the prophecy. As a Jedi, that would have been, because then he wouldn't have destroyed the Sith. He would have been the Sith Lord, But so the way he destroyed Palpatine at the end of Return of the Jedi was as a Jedi way. It was self-sacrificing. He was trying to save someone, to protect someone, rather than gain more power or.
So here's a question for you: if let's say in another world, Anakin isn't perverted by the dark side, and he does destroy Palpatine at episode 3, the Order 66 doesn't happen, they stop all of that, did he still bring balance to the Force?
What we all want to happen.
If say all the Jedi are still alive and Anakin defeated Palpatine and the Sith are gone forever, is there balance? Did he bring balance to the Force?
Yeah.
Or is what happened is what needed to happen, the Force's way of bringing balance back to the Force? Of all these Jedi dying.
I guess it depends on...
Because you got to think, too, Luke is a Jedi, but he's a different form of Jedi, where he's not as... And I think this goes a little bit more into the EU, is he's not. The Jedi were also so like the Sith are wrong, but I think the Jedi in the Old Republic, as far as like in the movie, like the prequel movies, were wrong too. Their thought process, their theology on how the Force worked and how you need to live your life was also wrong. You know, celibacy, not forming attachments and stuff like that. I don't think that's wrong. I mean, I think I don't think that's what the Force intended. You know, and so now you have Luke, who has learned how to be a Jedi from the Jedi, so like Obi-Wan and Yoda. But he also has learned to form attachments with friends and has learned to not be part of this, to grow up in this Jedi sect, where now he is able to learn these maybe other things that would be considered part of the dark side. And so he's almost able to form the both together and has made a balance of light and dark, you know?
So, I mean, yeah, if the Force itself is not really, if it's kind of amoral, you know, if it's because the mysterious energy field created by all living things, and it binds the galaxy together. So if that's what the Force is basically an energy field that's bound together, or that's connected created by all life and connected to all life, and then you're just basically somehow able to reach out and have a connection to it, then bringing, you know, balance to the Force doesn't necessarily sound like a ultimate good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if it would seem like good and evil would be outside of what the Force is about, if that's all it is. If the Force is, although at the same time, if the Force is created by life, then you'd think the Force would be kind of predisposed to be more toward the side of life, right? Than the dark side, and lots of death and stuff like that would seem to be a violation. You know, like using the Force to like mass murder or whatever, it would seem like be a violation of what the Force is, but maybe not. Maybe the Force doesn't care. I know that in, like you said, the Clone Wars, there's that vision, and that almost makes it seem like there is kind of a cosmic will to the Force where it does kind of care in some sense about.
Well, I know, and I don't really hold to the sequel trilogy very much, but I know they also have kind of tried to canonize that the Force has got like that's why they say Rey is so, at least at first, at Last Jedi, that's why they're saying Rey was so strong, was because she, you know, the Force created her as a balance against Kylo Ren. You know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was the thing. And I don't remember if the 9th movie like counteracted that or not, because it pretty much counteracted everything in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I said, I don't really hold much to that, because I think that's a little, I don't like that, because I think it's a little weird. You know, I tend to hold more to the belief of the like, you know, how the Force is kind of understood in Episode 4. It lives in everything, it binds everything together. It's a force that just holds everything together, binds everything together as well. But I also think that works with Episode 1 with midichlorians and all that too. I don't separate those. I think they can be the same. I don't necessarily know if I hold to the thing of like the Force has got a will of its own in the sense of it makes decisions and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the prophecy sounds like it's a Jedi prophecy. So it sort of sounds like, I don't know for sure, but it sounds like it's a prophecy from someone who's like a practitioner on the Jedi side. For
sure. And there's Sith prophecies too that would hold to the Sith are going to take over and do all this. You know, there's going to be one Sith that is going to, there's like a Sith chosen one prophecy, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, didn't Darth Plagueis think he was like that one?
Probably. There's I think a bunch of different Sith thought they were. I think the one that came, I watched a video, but like the one that came closest was like Exar Kun or something like that. I can't remember though. Okay. But new theory though, the Force is just ad nauseum, and we're branching Star Wars and Cosmere.
There was a shattering of the Force. That's the next arc for the next trilogy. Is instead of the Force Awakens,
they're just gonna have Brandon Sanderson.
The Force is shattered.
Brandon Sanderson's directing it. No, it's just it's interesting because it is left open almost to interpretation of how you. I don't know. It is kind of left open to interpretation. I definitely hold to. I think Luke has done a good job of balancing the Force, balancing into the Force within himself.
Right.
Not saying that he brought. I know like Vader brought, and I also think that Vader brought balance to the Force by showing Anakin that there is almost like there is good and not bad, but like there is light and there's dark, and you can still come back from the dark as well. I don't know if that's exactly what my mind was trying to say, but I'm going with it anyway.
Well, what you're trying to say maybe is that the whole like Jedi thing is like, if you take a toe down the line of the dark side, you might as well just jump in do a cannonball, because if you start down the path, that's the only way. Like fear leads to anger, anger leads to hatred, or hatred leads to suffering, or whatever.
Suffering or pain.
And so it's like, if you have fear, you will go to the dark side. That's kind of what you take from that. It's like the golden chain of the dark side. If you're like if you know anything about theology, you have the golden chain of redemption. It's like this will always lead to this. In the Jedi's mind, this will always lead to this. I think it's good to be warned that, don't be dominated by fear and live and make your decisions just solely based on fear all the time, or you're gonna go in a bad direction. But it was almost like, this person, he has fear, so we can't train him,
Well, so and I think that philosophy too, of like such a absolutist type of thought process of, if you have fear, it's immediately going to lead to the dark side, I think is what drove a lot of people to dislike the Jedi, include like a lot of the Sith. I think a good example is Revan, where his deal was more of like a war that was going on, but he was like, I'm not just going to leave these people to die. And everything that he ended up doing, this ended up falling into passion. He did kind of follow the dark side, but then he came back to the light side and found a balance between the two. And I think that like the Jedi failed there a lot too. I think the Jedi breed Sith. I think that you can't have, like, the Jedi are so scared of having Sith, but they do such a good job of breeding people to be Sith, because they focus so much on, you're going to follow the dark side if you do that. So then once people do that, they are like, okay, well, I've already fallen. Like, look, like Anakin's a good example. He kind of like was slightly falling, according to the Jedi, into the Sith role, and Palpatine just pushed him more over the edge. But then he was like, well, I've already fallen, so now it's just like, I'm stuck. Let me commit. And then he got stuck in this position of Darth Vader, of like, now I'm a Sith and I'm committing, I murdered these children, and now I basically I'm going with it, And so eventually his son brought him back, was like, there is still good in you. There isn't just dark and light. There, you can come back from it. There is redemption.
Well, it fed into Palpatine's hand, because, the Jedi are already telling you, if you start to go down that path, you're pretty much too far gone already. And then you have Palpatine basically saying the same thing. You're my servant now.
Yeah. Palpatine definitely used the Jedi as 100. He knew the Jedi. He knew their roles. I mean, Palpatine, you gotta think, Plagueis was his teacher. Plagueis was taught by the Sith. They've been studying the Jedi for a millennia. They understand how they work. And Palpatine was a political genius, not just a political genius, but just a genius in general. Yeah. And so he was able to manipulate everything to work perfectly, including using the Jedi's own teachings and how they view things against them to lead Anakin to the dark side. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's literally telling Luke, at the end of, and in Return of the Jedi, every moment that passes, you become more my servant. He just was so, just his it wasn't really his confidence, but it was more of his manipulation of like convincing you, that if you want to kill me, if you want to, then you're mine, kind of like hacking your brain kind of to try to convince you that if you're thinking anything that I want you to think, then that means you're my servant. And
I think it's interesting, because it's kind of, the thing about it, it's just like, in episode 3, Obi-Wan tells Anakin, like, only Sith deals in absolutes. Yeah. Right? But which is an absolute when you statement. Literally think about, even if you just think about all these things, like thinking of, well, fear is going to lead to the dark side. Fear leads to hate leads to anger leads to suffering, or pain leads to suffering, something like that. That's almost an absolute statement. Saying that fear is going to lead to this is an absolute. Yeah. So the Sith and the Jedi both dealt in absolutes, but from their own version, on their own side. Well, this is, even saying that the light side is the right way to go, that's an absolute. Same with the Sith thinking their way. So then now you have both these sides that are saying, there's an absolute, this, whatever. And then you kind of had Luke come in there, who basically showed to Darth Vader that, like, that you're not absolutely gone. There is no absolute. You can make the decision to come back, right, and do the right thing. And so maybe that's bringing balance to the Force, is realizing that there is no just absolute way to do something. That there is a mixture of both. Maybe Obi-Wan's right. Only Sith deals in absolutes, and the Jedi are just Sith too in their own way. And this has been Bridge of Theory. See you later.
Everyone's a Sith. Interesting. Yeah. Well, send us in your thoughts if you you listened and you enjoyed, or if you listened and you're like yelling at the at your phone, like, no, that's not what it means. That's not what it means. I know what it means.
Yeah, add us. Tell us we're
Let
stupid.
us know. Yeah, follow us on Instagram and follow us on Twitter and shoot us an email, bridgeof2@gmail.com.
Instagram is bridge_of_2 spelled out.
And then Twitter's @bridgeof2. All right.
Definitely give us a follow. Shoot us a DM if anything you want to hear on the next theory, Bridge of Theories, or even something you might want to hear on the main pod. Definitely the Bridge of Theories. Like, give us some theories. Give us some stuff to talk about. Give us some media to check out. Some sci-fi, obscure craziness. I don't know. Would love to hear from you guys.
This was Bridge of Theories.
Signing off.
Bye-bye.